Weaver, worm, bastard, demigod. These words describe one being, a hunter whose fearsome needle has cut short the lives of hundreds of bugs and saved the lives of thousands. Fate marked her as the lonely sentinel of ruined Hollow Nest. Circumstance made her the liberator of Farloom. Countless lifetimes have given her insight beyond most, and she's journeyed through distant lands. Though these words and more describe her, she's best known to history as Hornet. Hornet is a weaver, at least in part, which hardly makes her unique. Weavers are the spider kind of Hollow Knight's universe, a race that spread wide following an ancient diaspora. Intelligence married to savagery, weavers thrill in the hunt, using lures, traps, and fear to ensnare prey. This ancestry shines in Hornet's fighting style, her use of tools and silk to aid in combat, and it influences the center of her character. Hunt, seek, slay. Wait, watch, pray. Some of the words that resound when playing the needle in Hornet's red memory. What sets her apart from other weavers is Hornet's parentage. Hera, the beast, queen of the spider tribe that settled in Deep Nest, arrived in Hollow Nest alongside her sire. Their dead sire, once of honored caste, their sealed mother, but the common beast. For reasons unclear, the king of weavers died, and Hera led her tribe, doing much to maintain their independence from Hollow Nest and the Pale King's influence. The Radiance, a higher being and first god of the Moth tribe, was supplanted with the arrival of the Pale King and forgotten for a time. But her memory returned in vengeance, a plague that haunted bugs' dreams and drove them mad. When the Radiance's infection broke and cast the realm in chaos, the Pale King himself approached Hera for aid. Reluctant at first, the Queen of Spiders at last agreed after they struck a steep bargain. Hera would join Lurien and Monomon as a dreamer, the three individuals wrapped in vigilant slumber to maintain the seal on the black egg. Within, the Hollow Knight, the void-born vessel that trapped the Radiance in its shell, would eternally stand as the god's living prison. In exchange for her sacrifice, Hera demanded an heir, a child that had been denied her following the Spider King's death. The Pale King offered a fraction of his own power, the trembling gifts of a higher being, and a child of worm and weaver was born, Hornet. A direct descendant of a god, young Hornet was endowed with immense purpose and the potential to realize it. In dialogue with the midwife, we hear, "Then you've met her, perhaps, her who'd guard the mark, the gendered child. A sprightly thing, isn't she? Pale gift to the nest and the beast, and fair trade for sacrifice made." And in Hera's dream nail words, we hear how much mother cherished daughter. Bound, for brood, for child, fair bargain made, give all for her. The real reason Hera wanted a child was up to speculation, but in Silksong, Hornet's red memory dream sequence sheds light on much of her early days. The first memory shows her amongst other weavers who teach Hornet silk skills. Prove yourself more weaver than worm, they say as they urge her to accept her mother's heritage. The weavers care foremost for their tribe in Deep Nest and would see Hornet, the successor to Hera, as queen. Ignore them, daughter, their whispers. Greater, grander, weaver, guardian, queen. Those are their desires, not your own. Certainly not mine. But what exactly was Hera's desire? She survived the Weaver's downfall in Farloom and led exiles to Hollow Nest. It seems likely that a child born of such power as the Pale King could in future deliver the Weavers their ancestral home. She continues, "Only if you resist them, you might see it, another hope beyond." This could be the hope of Farloom beyond space and time. This sequence, at least in my opinion, points to Hornet as Hera's weapon and vengeance against Grand Mother Silk, Pale Monarch of Farloom Citadel. That wish, however, lies in the distant future. Mother stood as long as she could by daughter's side, but circumstance gave the pair little time. Hera made due on her bargain and was placed in eternal sleep alongside the other dreamers. Shortly after being welcomed into the world, Hornet found herself an orphan, her mother mere inches away, but forever out of reach. The lore doesn't talk much of the Pale King's paternal relationship with Hornet. The king likely saw her as an obligation, not truly his own progeny. She's simply the means to an end, the preservation of his beloved kingdom, an unfortunate consequence. The Queen of Hollow Nest, however, did feel a sort of affection for the child. It faced the gendered child. She's a fierce foe, strong in mind and body, striking reflection of her mother, though the two were permitted little time together. I never begrudged the worm's dalliance's bargain. In fact, I feel some affection for the creature birthed. Years ago, there was backstory surrounding Hornet in creative development that didn't fully materialize in the Hollow Knight game, but as Team Cherry mentions in this Reddit AMA thread, she was the child of 3 queens, one birthed, one raised, one trained. Hera, her birth mother, the White Lady who reared her, and the Hive Queen Vespa who taught her martial arts and gave her the name Hornet. Again, the Red Memory elaborates on these moments. The third sequence illustrates time spent training with the Bee Queen. In time, they will come for you, those who fear your nature and those seeking to claim it. These words, a warning from Vespa, perhaps hint that agents of the Citadel will search for Hornet. Their choristers will scour the land for her weaver blood and bring her silk before their monarch. We also see that Hornet's needle, her inheritance from Queen Vespa, is made from hive steel, further tying the young princess's training to the hive. The fourth and final sequence within the Red Memory shows a moment between the White Lady and her stepdaughter. Hornet's interestingly dressed in the raiment of the pale beings rather than her red dress. This could mean one of two things. Either she was accepted into the royal family by the queen and nurtured by her, or it's the outfit required by someone who holds counsel with the monarchs. But given that the lore points to the White Lady's endearment with Hornet, the former seems more likely. Alas, Spider's child, for our ways you will think us harsh, you will think us uncaring, unrepentant, and so we must seem, for such is the cost of our wish. The White Lady here alludes to her and the Pale King's actions in restraining the Radiants. They awoke the dangerous void within the abyss. They sacrificed thousands of their children to its maws, all to grant their wish and save Hollow Nest. It could be, in the wake of this conversation, a wedge separated Hornet from the royal couple. The young half-breed saw the destruction caused by Pale Being's desire, the same desire that dwelled within her, and perhaps she despised it. The sacrifice was in vain. The Pale King vanished into his palatial dream. The White Lady bound herself in chains. Hera was lost to an endless sleep, and the Radiance stirred from its seemingly unbreakable prison. Wielding needle and silk, Hornet became a proficient warrior, and as her entry in the Hunter's Journal hints, a lethal hunter in her own right. I have seen this nimble little creature. I thought her prey and pounced at her, but with a flash she stabbed me with her flying stinger and darted away. Could she be a hunter? In Silksong, Hornet's starting crest, the mark of her soul and her power, is that of the hunter, and as she grows more powerful, it transforms to match Hollow Nest's hunter in appearance. Such skills and her blood allowed Hornet to survive a reinvigorated infection and the ultimate collapse of Hollow Nest. Though the Radiance's influence was spreading from the Hollow Knight, the Dreamer's seal kept the god within the black egg. Hera's sacrifice weighed heavy on Hornet, an act she wished to imitate. The young princess of Hollow Nest vowed to stand as guardian of its haunted ruins, protecting the kingdom and especially the black egg from outside influence. When the Hollow Knight's cry stirred the night to return to Hollow Nest, Hornet too was drawn to uncover the mysteries of the dead realm. The knight first crosses Hornet in Green Path, just after she's dispatched another vessel. The vessels, void-filled husks created by the Pale King to fight against the Radiants, are by nature compelled to attend to the Hollow Knight's cries, and replace it as a vessel of binding for the Radiants. But the Hollow Knight, strongest and chosen among the vessels, wasn't enough to contain the Radiants. How could any other vessel do better? Hornet pities them, but understands there's danger in allowing impure, untested vessels to fulfill their duty. She dispatches countless around the kingdom and is initially hostile towards the knight. The princess is also guardian of Kingdom's Edge and steward of the king's brand. This item sears royal authority onto its wielder, marking them as the ruler of Hallownest for whom all gates open. The brand allows one access to the Abyss, a hidden region in the realm's underbelly suffused with void where the Pale King gave rise to his vessels, empty husks filled with the black substance. Knowledge of the Abyss and use of the void is critical in ultimately confronting the Radiants, putting an end to the god and her infection rather than simply binding her, which only perpetuates Hallownest's stagnation. Hornet believes this other way can be found, but knows the skill and resolve necessary to see it through, so doesn't allow herself to hope. Instead, she stands as a challenge. A vessel that can best Hornet, the demigod and princess of Hallownest, might prove themselves of sufficient mettle to spare the memory of this crumbling kingdom. She is the knight's ultimate test, and before fighting it once more in Kingdom's Edge, she says this: "So, you'd pursue the deeper truth. It isn't one the weak could bear. Prove yourself ready to face it. I'll not hold back. My needle is lethal, and I'd feel no sadness in a weakling's demise. Show me you can accept this kingdom's past and claim responsibility for its future." The knight impresses Hornet, and after their deadly dance, she dares to place some faith in this vessel. No longer a rival, Hornet bestows the king's brand and entrusts the knight with Hallownest's fate, but is still plagued by doubt. The dream nail reveals her mind's questions. From where does it draw this strength? Could this one succeed? Is it strong enough? This is telling. The princess does seem to care about Hallownest, or at least the memory of her mother's sacrifice, and wishes not to see it made in vain. But she's also witnessed dozens, maybe hundreds of weak vessels fail before the knight, and knows the pain of misplaced faith. Her own great sacrifice comes when the knight puts an end to the dreamers and unseals the black egg. In Deep Nest, Hornet doesn't raise her needle in Hera's defense. The harsh reality? Hornet's mother must perish for Hallownest's salvation. The conversation with Hornet after defeating Hera in the dream is heartfelt and shows the princess's deeper emotions. She's a lethal killer, a cold protector, but not devoid of feeling. To use the dream nail on her here reveals, "Mother, forgive my inaction, but another path may be possible." That path is laid bare after the knight traverses the Abyss, learns the truth of the past, and embraces the power of the void. With the dreamer's seal undone, with the void united and preparations made, Hornet meets the knight one final time at the entrance to the black egg. The path is opened. One way or another, an end awaits inside. I won't be joining you in this. That space is built to sustain your likes. Its bindings would drain me were I to join. The emptiness, the cold void characteristic of all vessels, is what separates them from Hornet. She is, after all, related to them through the Pale King, and refers to them as siblings. But though their power is of similar strain, Hornet doesn't share in the vessel's hollowness, and the woven seals would quickly steal her essential life force. The knight challenges the Hollow Knight alone, but at the end of their fight, Hornet seizes an opportunity. She plunges her needle into the Hollow Knight's mask and cracks it, which allows the knight to enter the dream where the Radiance is imprisoned and confront the god directly. With the help of the Hollow Knight's shade, the knight, now a vessel of void given form, destroys the Radiance and pulls her into the Abyss. Void tendrils explode in the Temple of the Black Egg. As they withdraw, all signs of infection have disappeared. The night is no more, its broken shell all that remains, and Hornet succeeds in her task. The Princess of Hollow Nest has helped to lay low a god, but truly lost her mother in the process. If Hollow Nest is beyond repair, its haunted ruins can at least rest peacefully, free from the Radiance's influence. This ending, Dream No More, seems most plausible as the canon ending that connects the events of Hollow Knight to Silksong. But the only one that doesn't line up is the sealed sibling ending, which sees Hornet trapped within the Temple of the Black Egg and her mask added to the Dreamer's seal. Her purpose now fulfilled, Hornet seeks new challenge and opportunity beyond her homeland. Hornet's story continues in Hollow Knight Silksong, and her character thrust into the spotlight of primary protagonist as she journeys through the cursed kingdom of Farloom. There's nothing explicit that mentions how much time passed between the events of Hollow Knight and Silksong, but several instances in the lore suggest many years, perhaps even in age or more, have come and gone. First is Hornet's physical transformation. A youngling in Hollow Nest, the Hornet of Farloom has matured into her full power and stature. Larger, swifter, deadlier. She's had much time to develop. As a demigod, Hornet's lifespan is undefined, but it's safe to assume she'll live much longer than most bugs. It's also worth mentioning that her development may be tied more closely to experience and insight rather than age, like how the Hollow Knight grew following his training. Second are the hints found often through dialogue with others in which Hornet suggests she's wise, old, well-traveled. She refers to many bugs as children or young ones, no matter their appearance, though this could be more to do with hierarchy as a semi-divine being. And the snail shamans, who are themselves quite aged, refer to her as Old One. But again, this could simply be an honorific referencing her heritage. Now, what Hornet's done in these intervening years is left to fancy, but she arrives in the distant kingdom of Farloom, a prisoner. Farloom's church stands eternal and rules the land from their high citadel. They preach servitude and obedience to thousands of pilgrims whose own wills and desires are crushed beneath oppressive religion. The citadel sends choristers, envoys, clergy to proselytize, but also to ensnare weavers. Farloom seems the ancestral homeland of the weaver line, and their people once built a great civilization before the citadel wrested power. A weaver's silk is a prized commodity, imbued with magic and vitality. Silk powers many of Farloom's contraptions, extends life, enhances ability. Truly, a critical substance. But the weavers of Farloom have long since passed. Their silk is no more. Their descendants fled, much like Hera and her Deep Nest tribe, to establish communities elsewhere. The church has for many years sent their agents to track down and capture weavers, bringing them back to the citadel where their silk can be extracted to preserve Farloom eternal. In the cradle, we see many cage devices crafted specifically to seize weavers, and bound with runes that deny the prisoner access to silk. These missions are often deadly. Plaques mention how many church agents were killed in the apprehension of a weaver, and also the weaver's bloodline. This one, which states, "Weaver in 8th part, last of their line, frail with age, tracked and taken in Sandsea Waste, 7 choristers, 9 envoys lost to task." This suggests Farloom's desperation for silk, that they're willing to hunt such a distant relative. Hornet, as daughter of Hera, possesses silk and weaver's blood. At some point, she gained church scrutiny, which sent out their envoys to claim her. Captured and bound in a ruined prison, Hornet is brought to Farloom's outskirts when fate and circumstance liberate her from her cage. In a strange, hostile land filled with mystery and clues of her own past, Hornet's journey through Farloom is threefold. A fight for freedom, an inheritance of her birthright, and a character transformation that sees her become the kingdom's paragon. Hornet is first interested in freeing herself from Farloom's silken tethers. To do so requires her to penetrate the heart of the Citadel. For so long as their Courser agents draw breath, they'll pursue her. To make matters worse, a silk-born plague known as the Haunting afflicts the denizens of Farloom. It strips their memories and drives them to madness, adding another level of danger. Now, the origin and nature of the Haunting is a topic for another time. But as a weaver and natural wielder of silk, Hornet's well equipped to confront this challenge, though not entirely immune. We witness this firsthand near the bench in Haunted Bellheart. If Hornet rests, if she lets her guard down, threads of silk work to bind her like so many unfortunate bugs. While working to escape Farloom, however, Hornet learns more of its mystery and how she might factor into its salvation. Showing trepidation at first, Hornet's own freedom is ultimately tied to that of the kingdom. The second path is one of rediscovery and reclamation. The Citadel of Farloom rests on more ancient bones, those of the weavers and their old civilization before it fell to Grandmother Silk. Throughout the kingdom, there are several shrines where memories of weavers past have been etched into rock and preserved in the silky filaments of dream. As their descendant, Hornet is uniquely equipped to bind these memories, which offer her the knowledge and power of her ancestors through silk skills. Each one of these reads, "Daughter of a distant land, we who remained have waited long. Bind our strength to yours, reclaim the future of our haunted kingdom." But that's not all. The mark of the weavers is also found in the ruins of many weave nests in Farloom's deep reaches. These secret chambers echo with history, but are beyond the reach of normal bugs. Only weavers who play their melody on silken threads can open the door. Hornet's Needle Inn offers entry, and within, the weave nests give up their technology, their obscurity, and their truth to the returned daughter. And it isn't just weaver that Hornet accepts, but also her nobler heritage. Her birthright is that of a pale being, a god among bugs, a monarch over kingdoms. In liberating Farloom, Hornet must depose one of her own kind, the Grandmother Silk. To destroy a pale being is no simple task, and Hornet must draw on that part of her to succeed. Hornet's third journey is internal. Initially, she's wary of hostile Farloom and its denizens. The Haunting has transformed many of the inhabitants, but even to those who retain their sanity, Hornet is cold and aloof. She reiterates in conversations that she's simply a traveler, desiring no harm or change to Farloom, if she receives none in return. She cares little for the decisions, safety, and fates of the bugs whose path she crosses. Hornet's outlook is first one of indifference. She doesn't revel in bloodshed, and she only raises her needle if threatened. But Hornet's pedigree can't keep her a dispassionate observer forever. Weavers built Farloom's foundation. They were venerated and trusted. Though their fire has long been snuffed, reverence towards weavers remains encoded in the kingdom's cultural subconscious. And as she plumbs the land's mysteries, Hornet finds herself an icon among the citizenry. They place their trust, but more importantly their hope, in this weaver spawn to save them from doom. As Hornet grants wishes, restores the towns of Farloom, and defends the masses, her notoriety grows. So too does she find herself transformed. She invests in Farloom and honestly cares for its fate. This is most illustrated in her taking up a residence in Bellheart. The defender of Farloom receives her own bell home, where she can decorate, study, contemplate, a sure sign she's bound to the land. There's a moment of hesitation towards the end of Act 2. Hornet feels the allure. She shares in the innate desire of all higher beings to dominate the weak, to be worshipped and hold control. But it's not irresistible. She's only half god, and I think Hornet's weaver side, her mortal side, triumphs against base urge. In conversation with the caretaker, he asks, "Planning to usurp, to perch above us all as queen? Such is the way of weavers and gods both." Later, Hornet admits this. "I'll not deny some part of me desires that outcome. Dominance, it seems, is baked deep in my blood, and yet another part resists. A part, over time, I find myself siding with more. That part wishes not to claim a monarch's mantle, rather it would see my freedom regained and this kingdom's bugs unshackled from their pale chains." And then, in Act 3, Hornet claims responsibility for the calamity that consumes Farloom, as Void eats the kingdom and the death throes of Grandmother Silk shake the earth. As a stranger, a traveler, it'd be simple to quit the kingdom and leave Farloom to its destruction. But Hornet feels a connection with this land, the ancestral home of her weaver kind, and remains to see the wrong corrected. In talking with Lace deep in the abyss, however, Hornet makes clear she will not be sentinel of another dead kingdom like she was with Hallownest. The bond to Farloom isn't so strong as her place of birth. One final moment of internal transformation unfolds in the depths of her own soul in the Red Memory. We've discussed already the White Lady's words for a young Hornet in the 4th sequence. But then, we see the Hornet of memory replaced by that of the current day. "I knew the wish and the price to achieve it, and now, across these many ages, I have only come to know it better. Strength, in mind, in care, in claw. Strength enough that I may live to see a world better than our own, or to craft a world as I desire. That was the wish of my mother, of my mentor, and of you." This is a threefold repetition. The 3 queens impressed Hornet with formidable strength. Mind from Hera, care from the White Lady, claw from Vespa. And this growth hints that Hornet now possesses the power to alter fate, to forge the future anew. For this ultimate transformation, Hornet is given the Everbloom as defense against the void that destroys Farloom. Witness the first light, the only means we possess to resist that void with which our family is forever linked. Reach forth, child grown strong. The last page in Hornet's tale is left open. Myriad endings are possible depending on which actions the Princess of Hallownest takes and which she refuses. Each has profound implications and deep support from the lore, enough to warrant their own video, so we'll cover them soon. Hornet, the wish giver, the weaver spawn, the demigod, the old one. She carries many titles, has lived many lives, and seen many lands. Wherever she roams, she's best known for her sharp needle and swift silk. Cold, but not unfeeling, she's a dynamic character with much potential. But above all, she is a hunter. Thanks so much for watching and listening to the story of Hornet in the Hollow Knight universe. Let me know your thoughts on Hornet, what you think of her abilities and her heritage, and what other Hollow Knight topics you'd like discussed for future videos in the comments below. And if you're a fan of lore and storytelling, be sure to subscribe to the channel where content is uploaded frequently. I'd like to take a moment to thank all of my patrons on Patreon. Their support's immense and ensures the channel continues to grow and improve. If you'd like to become a lore luminary for access to me, written scripts, and early video drops, head to patreon.com/thelorebrarians to learn more. Until next time, go forth and explore the lore.